everyone, I'm Dawn. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for visiting with me today. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing to my channel, The Cutting Board. We do all kinds of things here. We do food content like cooking and taste tests and all kinds of stuff like that. True crime, we do DIY, hauls, FXX, makeup, reviews, and most importantly, at least to me, Disney content. I have a lot of interests and I want to share them with you. So, in this video, we are going to discuss Shanda Vander Ark's motion that she just made for a new trial, or her attorneys made. Shanda Vander Ark, who was convicted last year of murdering her 15-year-old autistic son, Timothy Ferguson, who died from starvation and hypothermia in July, has requested a new trial. So Vander Ark's defense claims that she was not competent to stand trial and was in a catatonic state throughout the original trial. Ridiculous, right? The defense's motion for a new trial argues that because Vander Ark was not competent, according to who, I don't know, to continue with the trial, her convictions should be vacated, as her due process right to be tried while competent was violated. It wasn't. Vander Ark was previously evaluated for competency in July 2022 and was found perfectly competent to stand trial. Yeah, they evaluate people like this. Vander Ark was not present in the courtroom on the last day of the trial due to a medical issue. It was bullshititis. A medical issue called not wanting to face the music, basically. A hearing for the new trial motion is set for July 25th, 2025. Now, the following is directly from the motion, so I'm just going to tell you what's in the motion. Defendant appellant Shanda Margaret Vander Ark, through attorney Ronald D. Ambrose, submit this motion for a new trial or evidentiary hearing, stating as follows. Miss Vander Ark was not competent to continue with the trial as evidenced by reported statements of her incompetency and that she was in a catatonic state. It makes no difference that she may have signed a document for the continuation of the trial if she was not competent. She was competent. Miss Vander Ark was denied the effective assistance of counsel. I mean, there's only so much he could do. So let's talk about catatonia. Let's talk about that. So this is from the Cleveland Clinic. What is catatonia? Catatonia is a disorder that disrupts how your brain works, disrupting how a person processes and reacts to the world around them. People with catatonia often do not react to things happening nearby or may react in ways that seem unusual. Impaired communication, unusual movements, or lack of movement, and behavior abnormalities are the most striking features of this condition. It honestly, in Paul's testimony, he seemed more, Paul, her son, her enforcer, he seemed almost catatonic. Not her, though. I've seen it myself, and so I'm going to insert this information from a psych expert from Court TV.
I worked in a psychiatric facility and I've worked in the emergency room, and I've seen people in catatonic states where they're in a stupor. They're immobile. They're not able to respond to their environment or initiate movement or speak. So I'm not seeing any clinical indicators here that support that she was in a catatonic state during her trial or related up to her legal proceedings. So by contrast, she was articulate, logical, goal-directed in her speech, and she demonstrated a coherent thought process. There wasn't any signs of psychosis. And in fact, she was quite articulate and reminding us that she graduated from law school and was the top of her class. So what I'm seeing is an intelligent woman who's manipulative.
And here is some footage of Shanda Vander Ark in her catatonic state at her trial.
Everyone understands you. You've been sitting through this trial since the beginning, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were arrested for these offenses alleged back when?
July 7th of 2022.
Okay. So you've been living with this thing for more than, 18 months?
17 months, yes, sir.
17 months. So you know what we're talking about, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you understand the allegations against you?
Yes, sir.
And that it also helps that you have a legal background, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The things they said about how well you did in school and all those things, were those all true?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I want you sitting there and regaling this, but the things about cum laude and going to law school, all that stuff is true.
It was magna cum laude, yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Kind of tried to shortchange you a little bit earlier in your in his direct examination when he wanted to talk about your background, your schooling.
Yes, sir.
Remind the jury again of your educational background.
I have a Bachelor of Science degree, magna cum laude, and then I also have a Juris Doctorate, it's a law degree, that I graduated magna cum laude, second in my class.
And magna cum laude, for those that might not be familiar, means with the highest honors, correct?
Yes, sir. In law school, actually, summa only goes to number one. At the college level, it's above a certain GPA, but for law school, only number one gets summa, and then above a certain GPA gets magna.
And then below that is even cum laude, which is what Mr. Johnson tried to say you were,
Yes,
and I
sir.
think you corrected him and made sure the jury understood, no, you were second in your class in law
Yes, sir.
school, correct?
Yes, sir.
True that the last custody order from Oklahoma that involved Timothy indicated that you are only to be allowed supervised parenting time.
That is correct.
Now, Mr. Johnson was talked to you about the fact that after Adam had his stroke tragically in January and was out of the home, that was a significant financial hit for you. Is that fair to say?
Yes, sir.
And as a result of that, you didn't have a lot of income coming in. Were you working in Newaygo at that time?
I was, yes, sir.
So when you worked here, it was not a paid internship. You were working in Newaygo for paid internship at that time. Is that correct?
For paid clerkship, yes, sir.
Right. Clerkship. And then what were your other sources of income at that time?
Which time?
Well, in January, right after the stroke.
Right after the stroke. The rental income that I received from my brother from Oklahoma, and then I was down to one dog training client. Soot. Stupid thing writing on my watch that should have said good. Grammy left home about 10 minutes ago. Hopefully she will not beat me there this time, but please have him ready to go. And please keep a very close eye on your messages. I will track her on the app as I head home.
She wasn't catatonic. She was full of crapatonic maybe, but not catatonic. She wants control. She's trying to gain back some control. She is a control freak. She is an evil, manipulative monster that can't stand the fact that people are now controlling her. They're controlling her, and she doesn't like that. She was not suffering from disassociation like she has claimed during her trial. Like during the period that she was killing her son, she was claiming disassociation. She wasn't suffering from that. The prosecuting attorney even says that she was examined by a psychiatrist, a doctor, and they said that she was not suffering from disassociation. It was completely unfounded.
So I'm objecting to this entire line of questioning about disassociation, about why she can't remember certain things. If she wants to say she just can't remember, I guess she can just say she can't remember, but she doesn't get to use the excuse that this is disassociation. Furthermore, I have a doctor still on standby as a potential rebuttal witness who did examine Ms. Vander Ark, because the report from the Forensic Center, which Mr. Johnson has, which essentially debunks this entire disassociation myth that she doesn't remember things or chooses not to remember things because of some disassociation.
She's grasping at straws because she is uncomfortable. She's not happy in prison. Oh no, it's cold and the bed is uncomfortable and the food isn't very good. These are things that she has complained about. She literally complained about. At least she has a bed. Her victim, Timothy, didn't. He had to sleep on a tarp in a filthy little closet that stunk of human waste. At least she gets food. Maybe they should just feed her slices of bread drenched in hot sauce, like what she gave Timothy. That's what she fed him. Hot sauce. Sometimes they just pour the hot sauce in his mouth. And she's cold, but I bet they aren't forcing her into ice baths like she did Timothy. I bet that's not happening to her because that would be inhumane and you can't treat prisoners like that. I don't believe she'll be granted a new trial, but if she is, it doesn't matter. All of the mountains and mountains of evidence they have point directly to her. Thousands of text messages that are very damning between her and her son Paul, where the mistreatment of Timothy is evident. The video of Timothy's last hours. I'll play you this clip from her trial of an officer describing the video because of its disturbing content. The judge didn't want to show the video in court, but this man gives a very good description of it.
Talk about the first video, that it's a video that actually shows Timothy Ferguson being brought into the small room, but being brought into that closet just hours before he passes away. Are you familiar with that video?
I am.
And have you seen that video?
I have.
And we've made an agreement because of the sensitive nature of the video and its frankly graphic nature that that's not going to be played for the jury. Is that your understanding?
That's correct.
I do want to, unfortunately, have to ask you some questions about it. So if you could just recall that video. And first of all, explain to the jury what camera that video was obtained from.
So we spoke earlier that we had seized several video cameras from the home. This specific camera was called a La Vue camera, and it was found originally during our the execution of the first search warrant right outside the door of the small room. Further into the investigation, it was discovered that there was a micro SD card within this camera that contained video files.
And that camera and the video that we're talking about, what does it capture, at least in terms of an overview of where it's pointed?
So at the time those video files were generated by the camera, it was positioned within the small room in one of the corners, looking at Timothy when he was in there.
And you've had an opportunity again to review those, is that correct?
That's correct.
And at approximately 11 o'clock, 23:03 in military time, 11 o'clock or so, do you observe Ms. Vander Ark on that video?
I do.
And what is she doing?
On the video around that time that you mentioned, Ms. Vander Ark is observed placing a tarp into the closet and kind of spreading it out as a makeshift bed.
And after she does that, what happens after that?
After she lays the tarp on the floor, she is seen dragging Timothy by the arms onto the tarp and into the room.
And are you able to see Timothy's body at that point in time?
I am.
And what condition would you describe? How would you describe his physical condition at that point?
His eyes were open, but not really seeing anything. He appeared to be unresponsive. He didn't speak at all. He moaned a few times. It's very concerning watching that and seeing his appearance.
And you've also obviously had an opportunity to see both the photographs of Timothy at the scene as well after he was deceased and the autopsy photos. Did he appear substantially the same way that he appeared in those photographs as well?
He did. Very, very thin, bones protruding. In particular, he wasn't wearing any pants, so I could see his hip bones and his knee joint very prominently displayed as she positioned him in front of the camera.
And did it appear that he was wearing a diaper?
He was wearing an adult diaper.
And you said that Ms. Vander Ark positioned him in front of the camera so that what was facing the camera, I guess?
His face was facing the camera. It was the primary focus of the camera, is to keep a view of his face.
And that camera also records audio, does it not?
It does.
And did it record any audio from Ms. Vander Ark as she was pulling Timothy into the closet and positioning him on the floor?
It did. I could hear Ms. Vander Ark tell Timothy that he is pathetic, and then adds, but I already knew that as she was dragging him in. She also makes a comment to him that you owe me the biggest apology in the world, and suggests that he wouldn't be able to leave the restroom or leave the room for restroom breaks unless she receives an apology from him.
And then did she leave the room at that point?
She does.
Did she come back a little while later?
I believe it was approximately 15 minutes later she comes back into the room.
And during that time period, though, are you able to observe Timothy on that video?
I do.
And does Timothy do something between the time that she leaves the first time and the time she comes back?
Initially, she had positioned him on his side with his face facing the camera, and over the period of about 15 minutes, he rolled onto his back, so his face was no longer visible.
When she comes back in the second time, what does she do?
She repositions him so his face is visible to the camera. She has one of her Great Danes come into the room and instructs the Great Dane to lick his face, trying to get what appeared to me trying to get a reaction out of him, and even makes a comment to the dog saying that, see, he reacted to you.
And so does the Great Dane, does the Great Dane stay in the room at that point or not?
It kind of steps over him, licks his face, investigates, and then eventually leaves the room after she provided the dog instructions to lick his face.
And what does she do at that point?
During this time, and previously while I observed Timothy in the room, he was taking short, shallow breaths through his mouth. Kind of picture how a fish out of water would breathe, with gasping for breath through their mouth. And she clamps his mouth shut, tells him that he doesn't need to breathe like that, and then holds his mouth shut for a period of time until he's forced to take breaths through his nose, and tells him, see, you didn't need to breathe through your mouth like that. You're being a dummy or an idiot, something along those lines.
And does she leave the room at that point?
She does.
And is that the last time anyone actually has any contact with Timothy in that room?
That's correct.
And you've had an opportunity, does that camera continue to record all through the night into the next morning?
It does.
Because this was about between 11 and 11:30 on July 5th, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so the camera records into the next morning, is that correct?
That is correct.
And you've had an opportunity to watch all of that video, is that my understanding?
Yes.
And at some point, does it appear that, and you're not a medical doctor, I understand that, but does it appear that Timothy actually passes away while in view of that camera?
Yes, it appears that way to me. He can be seen, his chest rising, lowering very slightly, small little movements, and then there is a point in time where you stop seeing that, and his body just kind of relaxes, and it appears to me that he has died at that point. And
from that point on, is there any movement of his body until the next morning? Is there any movement of his body at all to indicate that he's moving or alive?
There is not. There is no more movement from his body from that point.
And we're going to now play for the jury you're aware that there was a recording that takes place later that morning, is that correct?
That's correct.
Starting around approximately 6:20 or so of that same camera, is that correct?
Yes.
And just give they'll be able to watch it and hear it, but what are we looking at initially when we see the video?
Initially, you'll see Timothy as he was positioned, and then you'll see Ms. Vander Ark enter the room, and you'll see her reaction regarding finding him. What I know to be deceased, but I don't believe she does at that time.
Okay.
But this woman thinks she deserves a new trial. No, she doesn't. And hopefully she won't get one. I don't think she'll get one, but I guess we'll see what happens Friday. Hopefully it'll be aired somewhere so I can watch it. But anyway, that's it. I'm going to go, and I will talk to everyone later. Bye.